Kelly coming at you from my part of PA. Well, I figured I'd do a real quick video before I head off to work on the weekend. So, here it is. This one is called, I'm in the middle of making candles, but figured I'd do video. This one's called The Lost Children of the Alleghenies. This is about a man and his family named Samuel Cox. This is around, I'd say, early 1900s. This happened near Parva, near Bedford County in that area, general vicinity. Okay, it says that it was the spring rains of 1856. So, yeah, 1856. This one happened. It was swallowing all the creeks up in south central Pennsylvania and had a chilly dampness to the summer. Just like the one we're having now. Imagine that. Okay, so the Cox family, they moved to Indiana, but then they traveled back to Bedford area because he tried to make Samuel Cox tried to make a living out of farming. He was a farmer, and he didn't like the Indiana weather. He thought he'd rather Pennsylvania weather suited him better, and he thought he could make a better living here in PA. So he came back with his family. He had 4 children. And one morning, he decided he was going to go coon hunting for the family. And he knew it was cold and chilly out, so he told the boys, his boy Georgie and, what's his name? Georgie and Joseph, to stay home with his mama while he went out coon hunting. And if they behaved themselves and he had a good raccoon, he'd give them the tail. They had a collection of raccoon tails, I guess. So he told them he'd give them that. So, if they behaved. So he went off, grabbed his coat and boots and gun and went off with the dog and out into the woods. And his mom never thought nothing of it. She was busy with housework, being a wife, 4 kids. I'm sure she has a lot to do. I know I have a lot to do with 3 kids. So, he left he was thinking all the kids were going to stay home with him. And in fact, they didn't. Georgie and Joseph actually wanted to follow their father, and they disobeyed him, and they snuck behind Samuel. Samuel was so busy involved in the coon hunting, he actually wounded a raccoon, and he had to chase after the raccoon with his coon dog. So he kept on going down the path. He had a little farmstead there, and off the way there was a wood, and that's where he was going coon hunting. And his wife never thought nothing of it. She thought the kids were allowed to go with their father because they never said anything, and neither did Samuel to her. So the 2 boys, Georgie and Joseph, followed their dad into the wood. Well, like I said, he wounded the raccoon, and he kept on going and he picked up his pace because he didn't want to miss out on the raccoon. So he kept on going. Well, Georgie and Joseph followed silently behind, and they thought they'd surprise their father. But long after, they noticed that their father got way ahead of them, and it was too quick for him. So they realized quickly they were lost. And instead of going home, well, they thought they weren't too far from the home, so they were going to circle back maybe and try to get back to the homestead. Well, they didn't end up there. So when Samuel finally made his way back with the coon tail for his boys and the coon, he walked through the door, and he noticed, he was thinking it was chilly. He was happy to be home. It was, chilly, wet day, and he got back in, and he only seen his wife cooking and 2 of his children on the ground, and he asked where Georgie and Joseph was. Well, Georgie and Joseph were lost in the woods, obviously, and she did not know that. She thought they were with him, and the parents soon realized their mistake, that the kids were, hi Lizzie, that the kids were actually lost in the woods. So Georgie and Joseph wandered around the woods for days, weeks, months, or days and weeks. It turned into days and days. And then people from all over the area from Pennsylvania found out about the story because Samuel, after he looked around, he realized when he came back, he looked at his wife, she realized the boys were in trouble because they weren't with them. So he had to go make his way to Parva, the small town. When he did, he gathered all the men to go find the children. They looked and looked and looked. I mean, people from out of state were coming. Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, all over the state and all over different states found out about what was going on with the Cox boys in the woods. So they looked and looked and looked and looked. Well, they never found them. And this devastated the whole community. The 2 little boys were lost in the woods. Well, what happened was this guy on the other side of Blue Knob Hill mountain started having dreams, very disturbing dreams, about 2 little boys being lost in the woods. And it kept on bothering him over and over and over again about this. This guy was too sick to go in the woods to look for him, but he knew he had to tell somebody. His name was Jacob Dilbert. So he decided to tell his wife this. And as he explained the path that he kept on coming onto in his dream and finding a little boot and then finding 2 boys underneath the uprooted tree, that she realized quickly she knew this path. This path was near her farm, old farmstead her family grew up on. So they hurried up and they rushed to her brother to tell him the story, and had her husband tell him the story about the dreams he was having. And I mean, he was having these dreams for weeks now, and they were really starting to bother him. They're nightmares, because he knew these boys were lost out there, but he was too sick to go out there and get them. So he told his brother-in-law. So his brother-in-law hurried up, got ready, and they followed the path to where it led. And during the search, the men never thought to check, thinking that the river was so high from the rains and everything, the ravine and the streams were so high that they never thought the boys would try to cross it. Well, that was their mistake. They crossed it. And when they crossed it, they found that tree, and they uprooted tree, and they took shelter there together. So when the men finally came upon the tree, his brother-in-law, Jacob's brother-in-law, found the tree. He found little Georgie and Joseph. They think that Georgie perished first, or Joseph perished first. He was the older one. He always tried to look after his brother Georgie, and he knew Georgie was too little. He thought they died from exposure and exhaustion in his sleep. And Georgie just died alone too, laying his head on his brother's leg. That's how they found him. Well, I guess till this day they have a monument up there. They call it Wayne Stream, I think. Yeah. It's near the farm that the in-laws lived at was Waysong Farm. But, yeah, Wayne Stream is where they were. So, April 24th, people to this day, because of the day, grim day, they actually do a tribute. They were really affected by these boys being lost in the woods. So they erected a monument for the boys at the place they were found. And they used to have parades, or not parades, they had little picnics and everything. And they still to this day think that Georgie and Joseph haunt that area. So there is Perry Lumber Mill owned the place in 1906. They owned the parcel of land that these boys were found on. They were buried in a little single grave in a little cemetery in Parva. But people all around still go there. The lumber company, Perry Lumber Company, actually donated the land to the community for a permanent monument for the children. And money's raised, usually, for the stone monument that was erected there for Joseph and Georgie Cox. So on April 24th, people still wander there to the weathered monument of Joseph and Georgie Cox to pay their respects to 2 little boys that got lost in the woods. So let that be a lesson to you. Always make sure you know what your children are up to. You never know what's going to happen. Even a simple trip in the woods can turn tragic. So if you're ever down that way near Parva, ask them about Joey and Joseph and Georgie. Maybe you can put some flowers on their grave. All right. Hope that was nice. It's kind of grim story. It's kind of sad, but it's a ghost story, and that's what I do best. So I want y'all to have a lovely day and take care. Blessed be y'all. and amen and peace and all that stuff. I'm going to finish my candles real quick and get ready to go into work on a Saturday. All right, take care. Peace. Bye-bye.